So I'm going to show you guys how I go through the process of burnishing the edges on my wallets. I am making a ladies like wristlet, little clutch purse with a zipper, change purse. I've had a couple requests for them, so I'm going to go ahead and knock a few out. I am using Horween Dublin. I believe this is natural or English. I'm not sure. I get the names mixed up, but it's a great leather. Comes pretty well marbled. It's a pull-up leather. So as you use it, it kind of changes colors a little bit, which I like because of that marble effect. In fact, the more marbling to me, the prettier it is. And so this change purse goes together kind of like this. It'll have a zipper there. This pocket will be on one of the sides. Then we'll have a little D-ring. So this came out of the middle, so I don't want to waste any pieces. So I'm going to cut this down a little bit, but for now it's okay. So that's going to go right there for a D-ring, and then I'm going to make a leather lanyard to go with it to put on the wrists. So I've had a few requests. And then I don't like to make just one, so I'm actually going to make 4 of these. So that way I do a series. But for this process here with you guys, I'm going to show you how I burnish the edges. Because if you look, the edges, although they're kind of nice, they're not finished. They're like a finished edge. These edges are already smooth because they came out of the clicker press. If I hand cut them or if I'm gluing pieces together, which I'll have to do when I glue these 2 pieces together right here, and I have to sand them down, they'll be a little rough. So once I sand them down and get them smooth, then I'll go ahead and dye them. But I'm only going to do the edges that I can't do once it's assembled, like right here and then in here for now. Then I'll assemble this piece, and then I'll do the edges on the outside after I stitch it up. Okay? So first thing I want to do is add dye to this edge here. Now I found these paint markers or graffiti markers, and they're empty. And I picked them up. Basically, it's a marker you put your dye in, and it has a little ball on the inside. And instead of using all these little wool daubs over and over and over again for little things, this is already preloaded with the dye. And it kind of keeps it all neat and contained. I don't have to worry about knocking over a dye bottle if I don't have to. This Horween leather comes out already dyed and amazing. So really, I'm just dyeing the edges. I also like the contrast of the dark edges compared to the front of the wallet. Okay, that piece is dyed. I'll let it sit there a minute. Now the inside part where the zipper is going to go gets a little bit tricky because those are some tight little corners. So I'm going to start with the easy stuff. I'm just going to do this right here. If your marker starts to get dry, it's pretty easy. You just kind of dab it on the table or on a piece of scrap leather. You get the dye to come to the tip. And I'll put a link to the markers. I think I got these off Amazon if I'm not mistaken, but you can get them at any art supply store. And me being an art teacher and an artist as well, I love these things. All right, I'm going real slow and delicate here because I don't want to accidentally get dye on the outside of my leather. Because this is such a light leather, if I get a little brown on the outside, it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. All right, now I got to get these little edges here. They get a little tricky, so I've noticed this leather, because it's kind of soft, it's easy just to kind of turn it like that and kind of squeeze it. Boom, got it. Go this way. Boom, got it. All right, then this little piece, I don't know how much of this I'm going to cut off, so I'm going to go ahead and burnish this entire piece for now. Who knows, I might find another use for it anyway. I try not to throw anything away. I'm not worried about the edges here because I'm going to trim it off, and you won't see them because they'll be inside of the stitched edge anyway. All right, try to put the lid on it because even though it might not spill, it will leak if it tips over. All right, next step is Tokenole or Tokenole. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but this stuff is amazing. I was trying to use saddle soap, glycerin, water, all these other techniques, and they all worked okay. But I had to put a lot of labor into it. This stuff here saves a lot of time. So it kind of looks like Elmer's glue in my opinion. I'm an elementary art teacher, so I compare a lot of stuff to what I do during the day. It even has an Elmer glue's kind of smell, so I wonder if they just put Elmer's glue in there. I don't know. But either way, I use my fingertip. I just dab it right on the edge. This stuff dries clear, so if it gets a little bit on the edge and you wipe it off, it's not going to show up too much. All right, so then I got my wooden burnisher. I go across the edge. I want to try to get all these fibers to lay down. Once the fiber is laid down a little bit, you kind of see already it's starting to look a little finished. Then I use a piece of canvas, or in this case, a piece of jean material. You kind of go back and forth. Some leather workers will say go one direction, and you could do that. This piece is a little more of a challenging because it's so small. All right, that's good. I'm gonna do the other side. It's easier on the bigger pieces because they don't flop around as much. But even these little pieces needed little touches that the big pieces do. I don't think a lot of people realize how much goes into making a custom wallet. And although these are not custom because I'm not making specifically for a person, I am making each one of them as if I was making it for an individual. I think that's what makes my stuff so popular out at markets. People see it and it kind of speaks to them and they think it's perfect for them and they got to have it. All right, so buff that edge. All right, so boom, that's a little D-ring keeper. A little bit on the front, you just kind of buff it off. And see, you can't even tell it went over on the edge. Such a pretty leather. All right, so this piece is a little bit of a challenge because we got that little nook right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put a little bit on here. Start with the easy part first. Let's do the hard part for last. Now, this little section here and this little section here is kind of tight, so we'll use the smaller wooden bevel or wooden edger here, the slicker. Use the big slicker for the big area that I can reach. You can see that's a lot easier than using that little floppy piece. All right. I'm gonna take my canvas or blue jeans, buff it up, put again nice little sheen to it. And I do have a big burnishing wheel too, but I don't use that for little delicate things like this. I only use that for like big stuff like belts and bags and things that are big, thick, and bulky. So small, delicate things I just do by hand. All right, let me get the other side. A bit here. Burnish those edges. So you got all those little fibers to lay down. Buff it up. So this is going to be where the zipper goes, and the zipper is going to lay right inside. So even though you're not going to see a whole lot of this, you see just enough of it to make that attention to detail matter. All right, buffing it out, buffing it out. All right, so now we get down to the little tight area. Because this leather is kind of pliable, the temper is kind of weak and soft. It's not super soft, but it's soft enough. And then I'll use this little burnisher stick right here. Slicker, I think is what the technical term is. All right, and go this side. Burnish it. That laid down real nice. Sometimes the fibers cooperate quick. All right, let's give it a quick little wipe for any that might have spilled over on the edges. You can see, looks so much better. A little bit there, boom. Now let me do this piece. All right, so you see it actually looks pretty good, just dyed. So when you put the little burnishing cream from Tokenole on there, it looks so much better. All right, now I'm gonna get the fibers to lay down. All right, now the final part. Let's buff it. Some people even put the Tokenole on the inside. And you can. It kind of depends on the project. I can actually show you guys what that looks like too. Wouldn't hurt it, that's for sure. It might actually help it. It does help in stiffening it up temporarily. So if you wanted to put it on this side, you can. Just put a liberal amount. I usually use my fingers. Some people do this even before they cut it, before they cut the leather, because it helps it get a little firmer. But then the only downside is you have to give it drying time. Sometimes we're in a rush and we don't have a lot of time to dry. All right, so I'm gonna wipe off the excess, and then we use a glass slicker, which I have here. And you just pull it in one direction. You just get all those fibers to go one way. course, down this way, you can't really help but have to go that way. All right, then you just let it dry. Like I said, that's the only downside with doing the inside is you got to build yourself up enough time to let it dry. When it dries, it'll be slightly firmer. And then for that pocket, that'd probably be a good thing. And since I have it and I'm doing it already, I'll just go ahead and do the inside of this one too. This will actually help, I guess, when I'm sewing in the zipper in a minute, because I hand stitch everything. I don't stitch with a machine. So a firmer leather makes it easier to glue in a zipper and punch the hole for a zipper. And so it will actually help out a lot. I just usually don't want to wait for it to dry. But there's a cup of coffee calling my name here inside in a minute. So I think I'm going to run inside and grab a cup of coffee while I let that sit a minute. All right, some on this side. And always look for sales with this stuff too. This stuff we picked up around the holidays. I believe it was, I don't want to give the wrong name, but one of the leather companies where we get our supplies from, they were doing a Christmas sale where when you did an order, you could pick up this bottle of Tokenole for $5. So, of course, Christmas is one of our busier times, so we made several orders during that time. And we picked up several bottles. All right, so only downside, it's a bit of a mess. Boom. All right, so clean that up. See what got on the front. Actually, not much got on the front. So, but even if it did, it just buffs right out. I can even show you. If I spilled a little bit, it's not a big deal. It's nice that way. All right. So I'm going to set this here. I'm going to let it dry for a few minutes. And then I'm going to come back and finish these up. Let that dry. All right. I'll be back with a cup of coffee here shortly. All right. Got her all stitched up. Now you can see this side is a little on the rough side, especially compared to a nice shiny burnished edge right in here. So I'm going to take this over to the sander, sand this nice and smooth, and we'll get an edge beveler, trim up these edges and make them nice and round, and then we'll give them the same treatment we did on the other edges. All right, hang tight. All right, so we got our sander here. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, get it going. You see how it's kind of rough over here on this edge. We're just going to try to lightly sand it. And this also evens out the edge, so now it's nice and even here, where before you have these 3 layers, and the 3 layers might be a little bit uneven. And it doesn't take much, so nice little light pressure. Boom, got it. This is a little tricky over here where I put the little piece, so I'm going to try not to touch it. So that piece there, I just won't be able to level out too much because of having the piece there for the lanyard. But it's easy peasy. All right, now I'm going to go get the bevel and I'm going to trim up this edge. All right, there's several different bevelers you can get. The one I found that was my go-to is a Craft Tool Pro number 0. But there are several different types out there. This seems to be the one that I gravitate to most. My wife, who also does this work, has her preferences, which sometimes I don't understand why she likes the one she does, but it works for her. So we're good there. All right, so just trim this up, and this will give it a nice rounded corner. We're trying to get the sharp corners off. When I get right here, I want to be careful because I don't want to gouge, just like I just did there. The good thing is this leather, you can buff it right out. I'm going to try to get these corners. Same thing on this side. It's looking a little rough right now, but what the amazing thing is when you put the dot, sometimes you'll get the glue that comes through too when you glue these pieces together. And the good thing about sanding it too is it takes that glue off, so you won't get the glue standing up. All right, this part gets a little tricky. In hindsight, I probably should have dyed this before I glued and sewed this, but that's okay. We'll make it work. All right, we're getting there. Boom. I'm gonna make sure I got it all. Make sure I didn't miss any spots. Think I'm good. All right, so now I'm gonna go get my Tokenole. I'm gonna burnish this edge, and this edge is gonna come out really nice. This is where you get to see the nice shiny edge. So the good thing about doing this right after you dye it too is the fibers are still wet. So one of the methods that some guys do is they'll wet the leather. I found if you do this right after you dye it, the edges are still wet, so it's easier to get that nice shiny burnish. All right, so now we're just gonna go over it with our slicker. You don't want to push too much because then you'll start getting some mushrooming, which is what we just took off with the sander. Just want to do a nice, easy. You want to get all those fibers lay down nice and smooth. Nice shiny burnished edge. All right.